Regenerative medicine is one of the fastest growing fields with new papers published every single day. As a busy mom of two, I'm guilty of not making time to keep up with the research, and I think a lot of other veterinary professionals are in the same situation. My name is Dr. Adrienne Wright, and welcome to Sit, Stay, Learn, a short podcast where I review regenerative medicine uses in veterinary science. Each episode, I break down a paper, and then I spend 10 to 15 minutes here just giving you the details you need to know to feel like you are staying up with the research. A longtime customer, Dr. Berger, actually sent me today's paper. And since I started the review, we've actually been sent this paper a couple of times by several other clients. I'm going to be honest. When we got this paper the first time from Dr. Berger, the title really excited me. I was ready to dive into it, maybe replicate some studies with our own product. But after reviewing the paper, I can definitely say that I'm disappointed. The paper is titled Centrifugation Force and Time Influence on Platelet, Leukocyte, and Growth Factor Concentrations in Canine Platelet-Rich Plasma. And this was just published in JAVMA in August of this year. I think it actually came out in the December issue, though, because we've had people say they saw it. So let's get into the paper a little bit. The objective of this paper was to evaluate the effect of centrifugation force and time that the sample undergoes for preparing canine PRP, or platelet-rich plasma. And I think that something like this is definitely needed in the field. PRP protocols and systems can vary greatly, and it's tough to know what your end product actually is. So I really was all in favor of this study. But after I examined the paper, I realized they're not even comparing any other PRP system. The only comparison here is values within the Arthrex ACP Max system, which I believe can be misleading, especially when there is a paper out there that was published by Sam Franklin in 2015 that compared 5 commercially available systems at the time for canine PRP. And there's an additional publication also by Dr. Franklin in 2017 that did the growth factor concentration measures. And then if you take that even further, reading between the lines here, they're basically refuting a 2023 paper published by Goodale where they found that higher centrifugation forces decreased platelet counts in canine PRP. This was using an Arthrex system, and then Fernandez published the paper that we're reviewing today using a new Arthrex system to refute these results. Basically, this is an advertisement for Arthrex. There's never a comparison to other PRP systems, basically just minimizing damage that maybe Arthrex had from another published result. And this is in no way a thorough comparison of your therapeutic options as a veterinarian. I just mentioned 3 other papers besides the one that we're reviewing, and I am going to attach all of these papers to the text episode, obviously, as well as the one that we're reviewing for any of those that are interested. But remember, you can always email me for the copies of these papers, and I'd be happy to discuss it further or send over that paper copy to you. Okay, back on track. I get it. This publication is more of a sales tool in disguise. However, as a publication and in a journal like JAVMA, I think it should be noted how these canine PRP concentrations compare to other published results. And even if not openly discussed or compared, the paper should at least be cited, which it isn't. And that's just bad scientific research. The 2017 paper with the growth factor testing is referenced, but only discussed in reference to low values of VEGF and IGF-1, but no mention of how the other growth factors compare, which is really disappointing. So let's see how this paper stacks up against Ardent's PRP system. First, I did have to do some unit conversions so that we could have apples to apples here. So that can be a little daunting if you don't want to do unit conversions. But let's look at the sample size. So this paper we're reviewing by Fernandez, they used 12 dogs for both phases, but the evaluation phase in phase 2 is only representative of 6 dogs. The population was 4 male and 2 female, average age of 4 years, and an average weight of 35.5 kilograms, so big dogs. They collected 300 milliliters of blood total from these 6 dogs, and they were sedated. These are really low sample sizes, especially when testing as many factors as they're testing here. I don't believe that this paper is properly powered for meaningful conclusions to be drawn. The Franklin paper in 2015, they used 15 dogs. PRP was processed for all animals with all 5 systems. They also sedated the animals for the blood draw, although in practice this isn't necessary. I would suspect that this is probably the same with both methods. They're just getting a larger volume of blood here. The ages range from 18 months to 9 years, and weights range from 17 to 45 kilograms. I would have liked to see means here so that we could compare because these are some pretty big ranges. For the starting material, so obviously with PRP, that's whole blood. The Ardent PRP kit uses 34 milliliters of whole blood, but can be done with as little as 17. The Arthrex uses double or triple the amount of blood. The tube spun for 6 minutes, they used 60 milliliters, and tube spun for 9 minutes used 90 milliliters. This really does eliminate small dogs and cats due to the volume need. I'm not sure what the minimal amount of blood needed for the Arthrex system is, but 90 mils from a dog is a lot. Okay, let's look at the centrifugation force and times. The Fernandez paper makes the claim that the force significantly impacted cell and growth factor concentrations. They are using a pretty high speed here. They use 2420 or 2696 G, and then the second spin they used a standard 315.5 times G. That was determined to be the best in phase 1. These are compared to a constant 1000 G for the Ardent method. They spin for 6 or 9 minutes in the first spin compared to 4 for us, and then 5 or 7. 5 minutes revealed to be better in phase 1. Ardent uses 4 minutes and 8 minutes, so really nothing drastically different here. Let's look at the cell counts. So, leukocytes first. All spins for Arthrex and Ardent's protocol reduced leukocytes from baseline. That gives you a leukocyte-poor PRP formulation. They do make the claim that this is good, and I think that's controversial, but I do tend to agree. We've talked about this on a previous episode, that there are feelings on leukocyte-poor PRP versus leukocyte-rich PRP. Some argue that a leukocyte-rich will deliver a more pro-inflammatory response, which I think there is rationale to support. So I think maybe in an acute inflamed joint, this would actually deliver an uncontrolled inflammatory response. But then there's the other side of the camp. They think a leukocyte-rich can be beneficial in those chronic conditions where inflammation's already at a steady state, so that you would actually turn a chronic condition to be acute, which I can also see that benefit. Ardent's PRP protocol can be modified rather easily to create a leukocyte-rich formulation if it is desired, and I do love that versatility, but as written, the protocol is a leukocyte-poor formulation. The literature is still out on whether which one is better. I predict we're going to see a lot more about this come out in the next few years in the literature. Okay. Let's move on to the platelets, since that is basically the point of the PRP. They are the therapeutic powerhouse. That's where you get the alpha granules, and they are the ones that release all of the good stuff that we want. So, in my opinion, the concentration of the platelets is the main distinguisher in PRP kits, protocols, and systems, period. If you aren't getting platelet concentration, at a sufficient concentration, then your PRP will not be therapeutic. That's it. A rule of thumb is that you want 3 to 5 times concentration from your baseline. So to start, whole blood platelet values were all within normal range for a canine. That's 150 to 500 times 10 to the ninth platelets per liter of whole blood. All starting material was in the 200s. Just to simplify comparisons for talking purposes, I did convert all the numbers to be in the same value of times 10 to the ninth cells per liter, just to make everything cleaner. But if you look at this episode's paper, the Fernandez paper, platelet concentrations did increase in the range of 364 to 809 for the different centrifugation protocols, and this is a fold increase of 1.8 to 3.9 over baseline. So they weren't always in that 3 to 5 times range that you want to see. Interestingly, though, statistically, Arthrex's PRP system, the platelet count is only statistically different for 2 of the protocols. Both of the spins at 2420. And only 2420 for 9 minutes got the platelet concentrations in that 3 to 5 times range that you want to see. And the 2420 speed is the lower centrifugation force, which in some way reinforces the Goodell paper that I think they were trying to refute. If you look at values in the Franklin 2015 paper, one PRP system actually decreased platelets over baseline. That was system 1. And so then it didn't meet the definition of a PRP. The other 4 remaining, system 3 was also only at like a 1.8 concentration, but the other 3, I believe that would be system 2, which was ardent, and then 4 and 5 were in that 3 to 5 times desired range. Ardent system increased platelets to 723, which was a 3.3 fold increase over baseline. So let's move on to the growth factors. I do appreciate that all of this information is in the one paper, but to find this for the 5 systems tested by Dr. Franklin, you do have to look at the 2017 publication. And not all values are compared, but TGF-beta and PDGF-β are, and I think that those are really the most well-known for their therapeutic effect. In fact, PDGF is having a moment, and we will discuss that in the next episode. So that's a little spoiler. All right, if you look at PDGF, all of the tested Arthrex protocols did give a concentration over baseline, but only one, the 2420 for 9 minutes, gave a PDGF concentration that was statistically different from the whole blood. Spinning at 2420 gave values that range from 3,023 to 4,427 picograms per mil compared to just 853 to 1,351 picograms per mil when spinning at the 2696G. The Ardent protocol also concentrated PDGF over baseline. The value here was 3,072, and this value was statistically significant compared to the baseline samples. Again, pretty similar, but Ardent's is still a little bit higher. You have TGF-beta, that was concentrated for all of the Arthrex protocols, and all were statistically different from baseline. So I think their protocols did a great job of concentrating the TGF-beta. Values range anywhere from 18,823 up to 27,555 picograms per mil, with the best result, again, coming at the 2420 for 9 minutes. What we're seeing here really is optimization of their protocol. That seems to be what's hitting all of the mark. But Ardent's protocol also concentrated TGF-beta over baseline. Value was 27,913, and it was statistically different than the baseline. The Fernandez paper does also measure VEGF, IGF, and IL-1RA, but values were no different than whole blood. So we really didn't see a concentration. This could either be that they truly aren't different or from that really low sample size that I talked about. The Franklin paper looked at TNF alpha and VEGF, but did actually not get values. I would think that that's because of poor antibody selection. Antibodies have come a long way since this 2017 paper, and canines are not known for their super reliable antibody selection anyway. I would like to see this be repeated, though. Overall, what do I think about this paper? I think it's fine, but it is hugely misleading. It basically was just a rebuttal piece for the Arthrex protocol and a sales tool. I'm not sure that it's beneficial to the whole community or not, since Arthrex really is the only beneficiary of this research. I would have liked to see their values compared to other systems on the market to see how it stacks up. But I guess they're relying on you doing your own research to make sure you're getting the best product for your price. And assuming that the optimized spin speed and time is what's used, I don't think the product is bad, but I am a little concerned with the amount of variability that we did see within their system. Overall, I think it's underwhelming. Message of the day, do your research, know what you're getting. It is no secret that I think Ardent has the best system for the best price currently on the market. What do you think? I would love to hear your thoughts. I told you multiple people have already sent in this paper asking what we think about it. So please keep sending those in, and please keep requesting copies of the papers and sending me papers to review. I want to help you feel like you know and understand the science that is being put out there. For the text version of this episode, you can head to our blog. If you have questions on this episode or a paper that you'd like for me to review, you can email me at adrienne@ardentanimalhealth.com. I hope you all have a wonderful week. See you next time.